in public health care?
No, you don't have that. But I mean, there's the time you have to wait there.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where a lot of people begin to inspect my problem in the story.
How politely put. What was the medical staff's reaction to your situation?
They were shocked, and honestly, I don't think a lot of people know about testicular torsion. You know, it's something that they attribute to happening in like colder countries, so it goes by the name of winter syndrome also.
Okay.
And so we're more familiar with hernia, so you know, everyone is asking me, you sure it's not hernia you have? It's like, no, I have
the experts were now re-diagnosing.
So then eventually a doctor comes along and he begins investigating the problem, and they decide that I need to go for an ultrasound. So I was shocked at that also, because I thought ultrasound was only for pregnant women at that point in time.
Well, clearly
it isn't. So that's wanted to make sure, you know, I had a blood supply going through. So I had to go for that, and a process that took like about 5 minutes. It came up to like about $700. So I was like, I started realizing it, and it starts striking me that, you know, guess what, this is a really lucrative business.
So now you're going to write a book about opening a private healthcare facility.
Well, I would like to. I'm thinking about changing our careers.
You look at all of the steps that you've taken thus far in the book, going to private, going to public, going to private, and the reactions and how you are feeling. How are you able to interject humor into all of this? Because there is humor right through, and most people will say to you, this is no laughing matter.
Yeah.
There might be a giggle or a chuckle. I think people's initial reaction would be, what, you serious? And then laugh for a while and then become serious. But you have inserts of humor all the way through. How were you able to look at what was going on and laugh at it?
When I came out of hospital, I had 2 weeks at home. And that's where I decided to write the story. So, you know, that's how I finished it, before 90 days. And I spent a lot of time, I tried to see the humor. I'm talking about over 4 days' time. Probably, I don't want to exaggerate, but probably like about 40 people, you know, were just giving, all right, drop your pants. We need to inspect this problem. You don't have testicular torsion. And the next guy is saying you have testicular torsion. One saying you need to remove it. One saying you need to fix it. So I think I think the humor in it would really come out in that, you know, men, in my opinion, they tend not to be very open about, you will hear women writing books about, I survived breast cancer, or something on menopause. Yeah, so I think really the human interest, I start, when I end up in Port of Spain in general, you know, I kind of go into how I feel among older guys in neurology, for example. There was a case where in surgical, this big Nigerian doctor comes along and he inspects me, and then he says, I'll be right back. And he comes back with about 12 interns, and he's like, these students have never seen testicular torsion, would you like to show it to them? And his girls like about, girls and guy, there was one guy in the group, and his girls like about 21, 22 years old, and I mean, that has some humor in it, in my opinion.
Talk us through the beginning of the entrance of the doctor to the end of the examination. What is going on in your mind and the range of emotions that take place? Because there's a range of emotion.
In the private healthcare or the public healthcare?
The both.
All right. And when I was in the waiting room in the private healthcare, you know, I signed out. The final form I signed was one allowing the doctor to see me. So he pulls back the curtain. You know, he announces himself, kind of like looking at a magician breakthrough. And it's like, all right, drop them. By this time, I'm a bit anxious to have the problem solved. So I'm like, all right, cool, I drop my pants. And this guy, he doesn't slap on gloves or anything. He just begins to inspect me just so.
Okay.
And, you know, what was going through my mind at that point in time was, I've been on the move since morning. I haven't had a bath, so you're kind of conscious about yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, and then he says to me, you know, so I'm looking at him in surprise, and he looks at me, and, you know, he smiles, because, you know, a kind of reassuring smile that, you don't worry, I know what I am doing at this point in time. And he's like, I think you'll need a fixation surgery. So what is a fixation surgery? include? It's like, well, I don't need to remove the testicle if there isn't enough blood. And what's going through my mind is, my goodness, what would my family, they'll just be making jokes on me because that's the type of family I come from. And he's like, okay, we need to check you in to spend a night so that you could have surgery. Of course, check-in means you're spending X amount for the room.
Yes.
You're paying for $45 for a little tablet. If I was to let me just go to casualty a little bit in Port of Spain in general. It was a bit scary for me because when I go inside there are two things that strike me. I see a guy in the hospital, and he was at the private facility also. So that struck me as kind of odd.
He left the private.
Yeah, he's working in the public hospital, the general hospital also. So that struck me as kind of incorrect, but I didn't pay much attention to it. I'm only seeing Nigerian and Filipino nurses, Nigerian doctors, and these guys are tall, like lampposts, and big and strong. And I guess it's just how they are, but they come across, as pretty rough. To me, they were coming across as a sick person. That's kind of rough. The first one that sees me, he says, you don't have testicular torsion. The next one that sees me, he says, you have testicular torsion. You have to lose the testicle. So that's where I'm shot up to surgical, where this guy with the intern comes along. I think I got pretty tired at that point.
Yeah.
That I kind of surrendered. Anything that happens, happens.
You were relieved to be alive.
Yes.
And if it needed to be removed to ensure your continued survival,
yeah,
you were willing to let that take place. I mean, in your mind, you didn't feel in any way threatened as to what is going to happen in the future. Am I going to be able to have children? If that's in your...
That struck me at one point in time, but that wasn't in the forefront for me.
Living.
Yeah, living was the
impetus.
Yeah, I mean, there are people that living with one quite comfortably. And
yes.
To find out the truth, you'll have to buy the book.
Stories I could tell. There's a segment, a chapter in the book called Transmission Gel.
Oh, that's where I went for the ultrasound.
That's where you went.
And yeah, they apply this transmission gel that tends to be quite cold. I didn't know. So, when I was leaving there, I decided, because it was easing the pain, I'll just leave it on and
take care of it when you got home.
Take care of it.
So, from beginning to end, from the start on the ladder while you were painting, and what caused this? You were on the ladder and you got hooked.
No, the platform, I'm like about 2 rungs down. Standing about 3 rungs down. So on the platform, where you could like rest your paint.
Yes.
Like lean up on that.
Oh.
But then like you come against it suddenly. Like you ever riding bike and you pull up brakes.
Yeah. That is how it happened. From the painting incident to the final arrival home, how long did all of this take?
That was about 4 days.
4 days?
Yeah. 4 days. So the final chapter is, Home Time Please is the name of the chapter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some people will tell you after 8 hours, after 4 hours, they've had enough, but you went through this for 4 days. What sort of insight did it give you into healthcare in this country and the quality of patient care that citizens in this country receive?
All right. When I went to urology, I was pleasantly surprised about the treatment there. I mean, you hear all kind of horror stories about hospital food, and the treatment, it was fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think I could be treated so good at a private healthcare. On the notion of, like how much we hear doctors charging pensioners, or how much these private facilities, I think it's unfortunate, especially when you see someone who's working at a private institution working at a public institution as well. You wonder if they're trying to filter in or recommend or refer patients to, hey, I got a private healthcare facility, we can sort you out. So I think that's something that should really, a practice that should be disallowed.
Working in both areas, sectors.
Yeah, it's either that you're doing it for the people or you're doing it with a price attached. Even, in terms of the